Welcome down, everyone, to another episode of Those Nerds You Know. My name is Ethan.
I'm Eddie.
And I'm Nick.
And we're Those Nerds You Know. Thank you for joining us yet again. This week, we're going to come at you with a topic rather than a review.
But first, we're doing a contest on Twitter. If you can tell me how many minutes Ethan and Nick were late, you're going to get a thumbs up in your DMs. See, this is called a turnaround.
Touche.
Yes, yes, it was absolutely stupid how we were late this week.
We were the late ones,
Oh, yes. Well, what goes around comes around, I assume.
That's the karma of the situation.
Oh, yes. Well, good, yes. But as we were saying, we're doing a topic this week. Our topic is our top 5 villains. Something we sort of mentioned last week while we were talking about whatever it was we were talking about last week. I don't know. You can look at the...
Like sad moments and villains, I think.
Yeah.
What was last week's topic?
My Hero Academia.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Got it. Yes. Pulled that. So this week, what we're going to do, we're going to go... everyone's going to explain their top 5 in turns. So we're going to start at 5, then 4, and 3, yada, yada. All 5 of us have... all 3 of us have assembled our own team of 5. Question, Eddie.
Go ahead.
Maybe we can cut this out so it's not... doesn't have to be in. But did you put Kingpin on your list?
I did not, because I thought
good.
You were.
Sweet, yeah, I did.
Yeah, I figured. So we should keep this in so people can see our foresight about things.
This is how well we plan things.
I actually planned this list around not Marvel or DC, as well as what would not be a very popular pick.
Wow. That's
on
cool.
Other people's lists.
I have at least one DC and one Marvel.
Something around that. So, yeah,
Swag.
It should be fun. I'm excited.
All right. Well, let's get into it. So what we're going to do is we're going to say who our villains are. We're going to explain sort of their motives, what they do, what makes them the great villain that they are, and who they're fighting against, what series they're from, yada, yada. Just to get you, the listener, as involved or as informed as possible. So, let's start out with our number 5. Who wants to take the lead?
You start us, Ethan.
Okie dokies. So my number 5. My number 5 is from the DreamWorks series Troll Hunters, and his name is Angkor Wat. He is the second villain that we encounter in the first season of Troll Hunters. So the first half of the first season of Troll Hunters is really, really good, and I love it. I love the pacing. I like the villain. I like the threat that's in it, and they sort of bring that to a close pretty soundly. And essentially from then on, like, the villain in the first half is the main villain of the series, but after they sort of trounce one of his plans, there's like this waiting period kind of where they're kind of waiting for anything else bad to happen, right? So like they've removed the threat for the moment and they don't have anything else to do. And during this period, a new villain comes out, and like it's almost like a filler kind of vibe to it, which would be I wouldn't like in a normal situation. And there's plenty of parts of the second half of the season that I don't like. However, I really, really like the villain. Angkor Wat is a troll who, so he's sort of brought into the series as being like this kind of Voldemort-esque creature, like this guy that was resurrected, this bad guy that was really bad before, and he's been resurrected, and he's kind of like a mage, like a wizard thing. So he's got these mystical powers. He has a staff that sort of helps him concentrate his powers and stuff, and he can teleport around. He's really cool. He's very menacing. But I loved the story of how he sort of became what he is. So there's the main bad guy is this big troll, who I wish I could remember the exact name of, but it doesn't really matter. It's a really big bad troll who's basically just this big evil guy who wants to take over the world and destroy everything. That's the main bad guy of the series. And he's sort of threatening to not only humans but other trolls as well, peaceful trolls. And so our guy, Master Jim, the troll hunter, sort of helps. Is like the troll hunter exists to sort of fight off this guy, Gunmar. That's his name. Gunmar is the bad guy. He exists to sort of fight Gunmar and his evil troll army and such and such. And they're currently banished to the Badlands, all that nonsense. But there's a long history of Gunmar warring against not only the trolls but the humans as well, and trying to take over the world and plunge into the darkness. Yada yada yada. Big bad guy thing. Engelrat was a sort of a leader of a tribe of trolls, so he had responsibility over this community of trolls, and didn't want to involve himself in the fight with Gunmar, didn't want his people to fall to ruin, and as a result sought any kind of way that he could protect his people. And in so doing, he made his way to a place where there was some kind of, I think he thought it was like a witch or maybe a goddess of some sort, where he could make a contract with her to get power. And he did that, but she like double-crossed him, so he kind of lost a lot of his, I'd say, humanity, I guess, even though he's a troll. And I think he just sort of became enslaved to this power, even though he is more or less immortal now. So he's, and in so doing, he also lost the opportunity to actually protect his people. So he lost all of his people, and he becomes basically a slave to this power. And it's just really interesting to me because I like the idea of a villain that starts off with good intentions, but he just basically just got the short end of the stick. Like, he just got screwed over and is now just really mad about everything. And he's sort of seeking the power of the troll hunters' little gems and things to sort of maybe try and set his own life right. But he's essentially resurrected by a couple of the bad guys just to be a menace and a problem to our good guys, Jim and all of them. And he's eventually defeated and all that, but it's so, once you learn his backstory, I feel for him so much, and I didn't expect that at all in this portion of the story. So that's why he comes in at my top 5, in my 5. I like villains that you can sympathize and empathize with, and he sort of hits that for me, so I like that a lot.
Mm-hmm. Nice.
Very nice. I have to watch that. I know you told me about it, but I haven't yet.
Go for it.
I might. It sounds interesting.
It's on Netflix, right?
Yes, it is. All of it. All 3 seasons of it now. I've only made my way through half the second season, but there are 3 of it. Mm-hmm.
Cool. I'll go next.
Yeah, go for it.
So, it was really hard for me to just numb it down to 5, and it was really hard.
You can do it.
I did. I eventually did. I ended up choosing my 5, but oh man! And then I found out that most of these kind of have this a similar motive type of a deal.
Right.
Anyways, so let's just go on with it. My number 5. Nick Brady's number 5 is Light Yagami. Yagami. I was about to say Yamaguchi. Light Yagami. From the show Death Note. Mm-hmm. Now, he is actually the quote-unquote protagonist of the show. Mm-hmm. But I consider him the villain.
Indeed.
Here's why. So basically, Light is a high schooler. He's super popular. He's a genius, straight A student. All the girls love him. Boys want to be him, type of thing. And he wants to be like a detective, like his dad. But right now, he's also extremely bored with his life. Really bored with. Because he's so good at everything. There's nothing to really excite him. And then he comes across this notebook from a death god called a Death Note. And he reads the rules, and he finds out that when he puts someone's name in there, they get a heart attack. Or, unless he is specifically has written how they will die, then that's how they will die. But if he doesn't specifically say, then they just get a heart attack.
Right.
Now for clarification, I'm talking about the anime version of this,
absolutely. Not any other version that exists at all.
Yeah.
Maybe the manga. The manga's good too.
Yeah. Basically, so he finds this death note and he starts writing names, but then the owner of that death note comes in and finds him and starts talking like, oh,
Shinigami death god guy.
Yeah, his name's Ryuk. Mm-hmm. And he's really cool looking. Ryuk is a cool looking death god. But yeah, so he ends up letting Light continue to have fun, I guess. And basically what his goal ends up being is, well, okay, for all of my villains, I actually have a quote that each of them say that I feel kind of just signifies what type of person they are, right, and like what their goals are and type stuff.
I love that.
So one thing that Light says, he says this later on when he, give a little backstory to this quote. There's a guy named L who is like a world-renowned detective who is on the job to find Light's evil persona called Kira. Mm-hmm. Because Kira, Light's persona, is the one that's writing these names, and he's like killing these people. But he only kills people, like he kills criminals, like people who he feels deserve to die.
Right.
And so throughout some of the story, Light ends up working with L, and L suspects Light of being Kira. Anyways, and so like in that time period, this is what Light says. He says that if we catch Kira, he is evil. If he wins and rules the world, he is justice. Like, oh man. And so I really just kind of like that premise. Basically, what he's saying there is like, if I lose, then all right, yeah, I was wrong, my bad. But if I win, I'm a god and I'm justice. I'm right. And one reason why I like him is he's doing this again because he's bored, to give himself a challenge. Like, okay, let's do this. Let's see if we can create a utopia and become a god. He doesn't.
Spoiler.
But yeah, I just think that's that the main story is from his perspective.
Yes. And
he is the main character of the show and of the manga and everything.
That's something I love the anime. I love this anime for that fact that this is the bad guy and he is the protagonist. Like he is the one we follow through this show, and he is the guy who is destined to lose. He's the bad guy. He is the villain. And I love that. I love that the show had the balls to do that. It's something that I wish we saw more often in the West that we don't really get to see. And it's the problem, I think, there's a lot of problems with the Western live-action adaptation of Death Note that's on Netflix. But one of the main problems I feel is that they try to make Light seem like the victim in that movie. Mm-hmm. When that is not at all what he is. Yeah. He is the protagonist. He's the one pushing this story forward. He's the one making the decisions. He's the one killing people.
He's the one that comes up with like crazy plans.
Yes.
Like, okay, since I have this Death Note, here are the fun things I can do with it. And he makes these there's one part in the story where he's like, okay, I'm going to give my Death Note to someone else, because when that happens, he just loses complete memory of the Death Note and like what happened. And so like he's going to give it to someone he trusts so that they can keep doing the Kira stuff. Mm-hmm. And then like maybe like a month later or something, then he'll get it back, and then he will return to be, Kira. And then when he gets it back, he gets all that memory back of him coming up with that plan. And so yeah, he's just it's a great show. A lot of cat and mouse between Light and L. Mm-hmm. The thing is, okay, the anime is like 30 6 episodes or something.
So, yeah, that's about right.
And Light is only in it until episode like 25 or 27. And then Light's protege comes in and like finishes his job. L, yeah. I said Light, right? They both start with L. I'm sorry.
It's all good.
But yeah, so, L's protege comes back, comes and takes over L's job and ends up finding Light, who is Kira and stuff. And so it's I think everything with L and Light is just flat out genius. Mm-hmm. And then after that, it's okay. It starts dropping off a little bit more for me, but it's still good. But the stuff between L and Light is, it is some crazy cat and mouse. Nice. It's basically like who can outthink who. Yeah, and it's great.
It's really good, really well written.
So that was my number 5.
I haven't watched yet. Still need to watch.
You need to super do that.
Yeah, I know. You say that, and you tell me about Death Note all the time, and I'm like, I'll watch that. I don't. It's fine. Sorry.
If anything, just watch it through until L.
No, watch the whole.
Well, I mean, I'm not gonna stop in the middle of it.
Yeah, no, I think all of it is great. But yeah, watch the whole gosh darn thing. Whew.
Well,
all right, Eddie.
My number 5 is Bill from Kill Bill.
Oh.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
I'd like to hear this. I don't give a crap about these movies.
He's the leader of the Deadly Viper assassination squad in the movie. It's basically this group of like 5 people who go around and assassinate high-priced targets.
Yep.
Aside from the countless assassinations, the movie takes place through Beatrix's point of view, who he is basically hunting down because she ran away from him. And the reason why she ran away from him is because while on an assassination job, she found out that she was pregnant. Being the mother that she was going to be, she didn't want to subject her child to that life of like crime and assassination and stuff.
Yeah.
So she ran from him. Didn't tell him that she was pregnant or anything. Basically hightailed it out of there and made him assume that she had been killed on her job. Later on, Bill finds her getting married to someone in Texas because it had been years, since she ran away, and he assumed that. Well, no, she was still pregnant at that time, so it had to be within 9 months, huh?
Yeah.
So he found her within those 9 months and saw that she was pregnant, and assumed that the guy that she's marrying knocked her up, who was just a stranger, like. We don't know who this guy is. Like, there's just like a few minutes of screen time for him.
Yeah.
And he basically, him and his assassination squad shot up the whole church that was having like a wedding rehearsal. It wasn't even a wedding, it was a rehearsal. And left her last. She was on the floor bleeding, and he's standing over her and delivers the like most ridiculous monologue that any opening movie could ever come to hope to match. But he basically, after he finishes it, he shoots her in the head. However, she doesn't die from it. She's put into a coma for 4 years, and she has her baby while she's in a coma, and her baby survives, but Bill obtains the baby. So BB, as the baby's name is, has been with him the entire time, and she doesn't know that. She thinks that she lost her baby. Mm-hmm. She has a complete breakdown when she wakes up because she assumes she was still pregnant. And basically she tracks down each of the members of the assassination squad and kills them, except for one. One of them she basically blinds because she was missing an eye, so she plucks out the other one during their sword fight.
Yep.
In the end, she basically kills Bill, as the namesake.
Yeah.
And with the 5-point palm exploding heart technique, which Bill's teacher taught her. And she saves her daughter, and they live happily ever after. And he's just, throughout the movie, like, we don't even see anything but, like, his hand in the first movie, and we hear his voice, and he's this ominous presence that we have no idea, like, we just know he's in charge of this group and that he means business whenever he's talking. and basically, yeah, he delivers such good lines like throughout the whole movie. Like, he has like 3 monologues throughout, and unfortunately, David Carradine, who was the actor, died a while back.
Mm-hmm.
But there was talks of a sequel back whenever it was being filmed, of a follow-up sequel to the first 2 stories. But Tarantino, who is the director, wanted to wait like 16 years for the children to grow up.
Huh.
Because the first one she goes after, her name is Vernita Green, I think, played by Vivica Fox.
Okay.
And basically, she accidentally kills Vernita in front of her child, who just came out from school.
Mm-hmm.
Even
That's
though,
a rough scene.
yeah, even though Vernita told her to go upstairs. So Tarantino wanted to wait till they grew up and have like the 2 children duke it out in order for her to try to kill Beatrix because of it.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, there was a really bad accident on the second volume of Kill Bill to Uma Thurman. There was a lot of safety precautions that weren't taken, and she ended up pretty badly hurt. She was almost what you call it? She was almost handicapped. Like they almost like put her on disability. Yeah, you know this. You've seen Kill Bill 1 and 2, right?
I have. I'm a bit foggy on 2.
Okay, well 2 it opens with her driving in a car in black and white. That scene, like she accidentally crashed in that scene.
Ooh.
Yeah, and because I think there was like something happened with the gas pedal or the seatbelt or something like that, and basically she crashed, and they weren't on very good terms for a while. So, but I doubt that Kill Bill or Kill Beatrix becomes a thing. Unfortunately, I was really excited for that. But yeah, Bill is a very, very nasty man.
I also I think that's a very good choice for top 5 is Bill, because when we do eventually see him, we also see how like also charismatic he is.
Oh yeah,
you know, when you're like, okay, yeah,
he's sort of likable, like, to be honest,
right? Yeah,
and but, even like when he's talking to his brother Bud, he's like, she's coming to kill you. You need to fucking prepare.
Yeah.
Pardon my French. But yeah, it's pretty crazy.
Oh. Yeah, that's cool. They do a good job with him. All right. On to number 4, gentlemen.
Number 4.
Number 4.
So, my number 4, once I open my phone again. My number 4 is a group of villains called The Light.
The what?
The Light.
The White?
The Light.
As in, light. L-I-G-H-T?
Yes, as in like a bright light. Light in your room. The sun gives light. Light.
Gotcha.
Eddie, I know you haven't watched this. Nick, have you seen Young Justice?
Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah.
So The Light is the main set of villains in Young Justice.
Okay, yeah.
And I love them.
Yeah, they're great.
They're super freaking cool. They're essentially just like this league of supervillains that we've all basically seen before. But all through Young Justice, they're putting together this elaborate plot. So the main idea of Young Justice is that it's a group of sidekicks to superheroes in the DC universe that sort of band together and decide to form their own team because they are tired of sort of being treated like sidekicks. So they want to form their own team and do their own sort of hero work. And they're given the ability to do that by the Justice League, but they do only covert operations, only covert missions, and essentially what ends up happening is what seem to be a stream of unconnected events in their life with sort of low-level villains they're dealing with, or low-level threats that they're dealing with. Is actually just a big interconnected plot by the Light. They're one of those like frustrating villains where like you know, you've won the day, like your superheroes have won and everything's good, and then like right before the credits, the villain comes on and like, yes, all according to plan. And that's exactly how they are. Like they've planned everything out so that they make it seem as though the good guys are winning, that this team of sidekicks is effective. It's a while before anyone's even aware of the light, which I think is another good mark of a villain. Like no one even knows they exist for a while. And then when they do find them, they still don't know who they are. They just know that there's just some group calling themselves the Light. Then the Light ends up finding a way to basically make another group of villains look like they're the Light. So like they essentially set up a bunch of decoy villains. Then we reveal who they actually are, and then they end up essentially like, obviously they're going to be spoilers in this episode, but they're spoilers for several things. These guys actually kind of win. But you don't see how they win until the second season, which I think is really freaking cool.
Yeah.
They end up essentially getting, I think part of their plot was to have a space of time where all the main heroes in the world weren't there. And they end up getting a bit of that. And there's a lot of repercussions from like an hour that the Justice League was missing in season 2, which is just really freaking cool. But I love them. They're written so well into the series. Like the series exists because of both the team of sidekicks and these villains, and it's just I find that villains are really, really cool whenever they're able to hide themselves well enough so that you don't even know that they're accomplishing what they want to be accomplished. Mm-hmm. I feel that way about at least one other villain in my list who's closer to the tap. But I like it a lot. I love what they did with it, and it just seems so ominous. And they're still around in the second season, and they're still probably going to be around in the third season that we're going to get, which I'm super excited that we're even getting, because no one thought we'd ever get one.
I know, I'm excited for it.
It's true. Nobody thought that.
Yeah.
Like a writer, one of the writers of the show didn't think so. Like, it's so cool, and I like them a lot, especially as a group of villains. I think they operate very well, because I think that's oftentimes that's a difficult thing, and that can be an undoing of a group of a set of villains. Is the fact that there are multiples of them. There's just more weaknesses to be taken advantage of whenever you have a group as opposed to just a villain. But yeah, that's my number 4, the Light from Young Justice.
That's great. I completely forgot about the Light. Well, no, because like it is a great show. It's not like completely forgot about it. It's just like I watched it. It's been so long since I watched it.
While,
and
I'm sure.
I just remember that I just loved it. It's a great show. Mm-hmm. Young Justice is a great show.
Where they piece everything together.
And that's probably really cool. Why it's a great show.
Yeah. There's so many things that go into that show that make it great, and they're definitely a part of it. Ugh.
So my number 4 is Ryu Asuka, aka Satan,
aka
from Devilman Crybaby.
Satan. Cool.
Not
get far into that series.
What, Ethan? Are you kidding me?
Yeah, this series is very it's a very mature series. There's a lot of
so
blood.
Kiddos, get your parents' consent first. Actually, don't don't watch this if you're a kid. Don't.
Gore.
Yeah, it's definitely Redditor.
And so it is. When I watched the first episode, I was like, whoa, this is a lot. Mm-hmm. And for some reason, I didn't stop.
No. So I feel you. I got a few episodes in before I was like, yeah, I just can't. I can't. But like, you see, like at first it's like, oh, this is pretty bad. And then it just steadily gets worse. Like in seconds. Like it goes from bad to like, holy crap.
Which is interesting because the main story of it is... the first 4 episodes is really intense. Like, oh, there's a lot of like blood and gore and demons and sex and whatnot. But then like the later on episodes, there's less of that stuff going on. Because it becomes something much more than just blood and gore and sex and nudity and all that stuff. Anyways, so why he is my number 4. Okay, so he is Satan. I think why one reason why I liked this one was maybe because it is there's a lot of religious metaphors in it, and I'm a religious person, and so Satan was banished down to earth from God, from heaven and God, and he came down to earth, and that is when he first encountered demons. And he was actually really intrigued by demons, and he felt like that like demons were like a superior race type of a deal. And then God saw that, destroyed Earth, kind of started over with Satan there. And so Satan and the demons, they survived, and Satan was reincarnated as Ryu Asuka.
Gotcha.
And then he was found by like a tribe, like in South America, just like a tribe in Brazil. Found him, and they saw that, whoa, he can like do some magical stuff, and so they started worshiping him. But then like the military came and destroyed that village. And then he ended up washing up on this other town, where he ends up finding his longtime friend and the main protagonist of the story, Akira. Yeah. That's how they pronounce it. Anyway, so he ends up being Akira ends up being the main protagonist of the story. Now, here's a quote from Ryu Asuka. He says that love doesn't exist. There is no such thing as love. Therefore, there is no sorrow. And that basically just kind of describes, I feel, the main story of that whole show. Because Akira, he cries a lot over like things like, oh, all my family's here. I'm so happy. I'm going to start crying.
Yeah.
Oh, this little animal's sick. I feel really bad for it. I want to heal it. He's going to start crying. And so Ryu calls him like a crybaby. He's like, you're being a crybaby. And so that's why Devilman Crybaby comes in. Yeah. Anyway, so what happens is in high school, because for some reason in a lot of anime, the main characters are in high school. That's like an anime thing. So they're in high school. And Ryu ends up finding Akira because they end up going like separate ways. Ryu ends up getting adopted by someone else.
Okay.
And he ends up going to becoming like I want to say like another genius, where he ends up teaching like at a college at like a really young age. He ends up like teaching at a college.
He was highly esteemed.
Yes. And so in the first episode, he finds Akira, and then he takes him to a party. He's like, so yeah, I've read that demons exist. We should go to a party where I think that they'll be there and stuff. And so they go to a party, and demons show up, and Ryu basically makes Akira become the Devil Man. He has a devil. I can't remember the devil's name, but he's like a warrior devil or something. Anyway, basically go into his body, so where he has like the power and like the body of a demon, but he still has like the heart of a human. So that's why he's Devil Man. And so the story goes on, and Ryu, he still doesn't know that he's Satan yet. It's not until like the last like couple episodes where we find out that, oh, he's Satan, and subconsciously he's been like planning this like big demon revolt thing. Right. And he wanted the Devil Man, Akira, to like be by his side. And the reason why he did that, he made him a Devil Man, is because he finds humans like inferior, like a weaker being. Right. And then, but Akira being like human, he's like, no, humans are awesome. Wow, why'd you do this? You destroyed everything I loved. And he's like, well, too bad. Love doesn't exist. And then they end up fighting. There's a big fight, big battle. And Satan ends up killing Akira. And they're like, he ends up blowing off like half of his body, half of Akira's body, Devilman's body. And they're just laying on like a giant boulder or something, stargazing.
Something anime-esque.
Yeah. and Satan, he's just talking to him. He's like, yeah, remember that? Remember that, Akira? Remember when we used to do that? And then he notices that he's dead and he's not responding. And then that's when he starts crying. And he's like, what is this feeling I'm feeling? What's happening? Akira, please talk to me, tell me. And so he ends up crying and he's like, and so
what a wuss.
Right. So basically he ends up winning the war type of a thing, where like humans do end up like basically non-existing, and then the demons win. But he loses in the end because
he learns that his philosophy was wrong.
Yeah, he learns his philosophy was wrong, and that there was only like one person he ever loved, or one thing he ever loved, and it was Akira. And he's now dead. And so it's really a powerful moment there.
That's awesome.
And that is my number 4.
And then God resets the earth by
hit that big old reset button.
Yeah, basically.
Oh, sweet. Give us a sweet number 4, Eddie.
My number 4. I'm going to ask you guys if you know who this is first.
Okay.
William Afton. Do either of you know who that is?
I'm going to say no.
That sounds so familiar. I feel like I know the name.
Well,
I can't.
Sounds like a white guy's name.
Funny you should say that, but he's from this little game called Five Nights at Freddy's.
Oh, cool.
That's right. I watched so many like game theories on that. That's where it,
Matt loves this series. But,
yeah, he does.
I do too. So Five Nights at Freddy's seems like an innocent jump scare game, but there's actually a lot of story in it. It spawned 8 games, merchandise, 4 books, and even an upcoming movie.
Yeah.
It's being directed by Chris Columbus, who actually wrote The Goonies, directed Home Alone, and like all kinds of stuff. He's pretty good. Then again, he did he also wrote like The Gremlins, and like he directed Pixels, which was Adam Sandler's really bad game movie.
Yeah.
So it's kind of scary, but
I kind of want to watch that movie.
Yeah, I kind of do too, but at the same time, I know it's really, really bad. But
my parents got me that movie as a gag gift.
Yes.
Like, hey,
deserving gag.
Enjoy it.
You can watch and review it for our listeners so that they can know for sure how bad it is.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, to put it simply, William Afton is the purple guy.
Yes,
as
the purple man.
He is a child murderer.
Yeah.
Not much is known about him, but he is recurring throughout the series. Every game has like little Easter eggs that you can do, but each thing tells more and more of the story. And some of it's really hard to get to. It's really funny to watch.
I've heard, yeah.
But, yeah, and it's not something that I can play because I don't do horror games. But I will watch the crap out of them.
Don't like the scary stuff? Oh, good. Oh, because you've already watched. Okay, got you.
Yeah. No, I watch people. Watching it is fine, as long as I don't put myself into actually interacting with it.
Yeah.
It's a hard game.
Yeah, no, definitely. At the beginning, his first murder, he murdered a child that was stuck outside of the pizzeria that he was a security guard at. And the child actually like crawls to one of the discarded animatronics in the back as she's dying, and basically her spirit possesses that animatronic known as the puppet. So fast forward a few years later, he's in a new pizzeria. The child was never found, of course, but he basically lures like 5 more children into like the back of the pizzeria and murders them as well. But the puppet, who was the first child, basically put their corpses in these other animatronics, and those children possessed those animatronics, and you might know them as Freddy, Bonnie, Chica, and Foxy. And Golden Freddy, who were the main animatronics of the first game. that jump out and scare you.
Yes.
But throughout the game, we learn that the animatronics were basically hunting Afton through the game, through the time of the game, and basically they created this spring lock suit, which can function as both an animatronic and a suit that you could wear. And he basically jumps into this thing, and because he's so like nervous and like laughing and stuff, all this moisture coming from his body, it activates into an animatronic, and it basically crushes them and kills them inside of the animatronic.
Huh.
So
Yeah,
throughout the game, throughout the next game, it's like you have to try to fend him off and stuff. And we learned that he had like a family, and that he was learning how to extract the soul from people to possess other things, called Remnant. Remnant is the name of the soul juice for this game. But we know the purple guy as Springtrap as well, which was a golden Bonnie suit. Springtrap is apparent throughout the series as well. But basically, the second to last game, it closes with his son basically locking all of the possessed animatronics and stuff and him in like this closed area, and basically sets everything on fire, including himself.
Sweet.
Yeah.
So this throughout every game is Purple Man already dead in each one of these games?
He is a spirit possessing the suit.
Okay.
The Golden Bonnie suit, which is known as Springtrap. He's present.
So are all the other suits trying to kill you? Or are they trying to warn you?
See, the thing is, a couple of the games you are playing as William Afton.
Okay.
It's telling a
they're
story
trying to
through
kill
the
you.
characters that
Gotcha.
you're actually taking the role of. And the second one, there's like face recognition software installed into the animatronics, and they're basically trying to kill Afton. And which people are assuming that you're playing as Afton because they're trying to kill you, as well as the first one.
Huh.
But either way, he basically gets everything set on fire and releases the souls of the children that were being tormented, and kills him in the end. And the final game, which was actually just released about 2 weeks ago, I think, where you seem to be playing as William Afton in hell, trying to fend off the killer animatronics that he's, been a part of for the rest of eternity and stuff. Yeah, it's pretty wild.
Gnarly, yeah.
And what's funny, I think the best part about this whole series is Scott Cawthorn, who is the creator, started off with making point-and-click Christian games.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's a pretty little fun fact there.
That's great.
That he basically just dropped all of that and made this multi-million-dollar franchise of murdered children bots.
Hellish children murder,
Yeah,
yes.
It's crazy.
But yeah, I like that he is just this entity that we don't know much about. I like entities. I've come to find like the background guys, but he's pretty evil, but he's very interesting, I think.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Cool.
So yeah, I'm looking forward to the movie as well. I'm definitely gonna be watching that.
I guess I will too. I don't know. I'm intrigued by it so much, even though I hate horror, but it's very intriguing.
Yeah. We'll see how it
Cool
goes.
beans.
It might be really bad, but it might be really
could
good
be.
too.
Yeah, it could be either or.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, cool. Thank you for 4. We're going to move on to 3. My number 3 is from one of my favorite manga. It's from a manga called D. Gray Men. The villain or villains in this group is called the Millennium Earl and the Noah. So the Millennium Earl is more or less a Satan figure. He's in opposition to God, and this is a very religious story as well. And so the Millennium Earl, he creates demons called Akuma, who exist to kill humans, and sort of like once he makes them, they sort of kill humans and level up to become stronger. and they're basically like machines. Like he's made this infernal machine, this terrible machine, and he comes to people in moments of grief at the loss of someone, and he has this little saying. He'll come to them and he's like, he's like, I see that you're sad. How would you like to call back your loved one from the terrible God that's taken them from you? So he's a real thing against God, and
as you do as a Ethan.
Yeah, as you typically would. He also looks crazy. Like he looks very, very menacing. He looks like he's really happy that he's so evil, and it's fun times. Anyway, so he'll come to the person who's the survivor of the lost one, whoever has passed away, and he'll be like, do you want your person back? And they'll be like, yeah, of course they would, because they're grieving. They want whoever it is to come back. And so with their permission, he can then pull that person's spirit or soul from wherever it is, attach it to the Akuma, to the weapon. And then the thing is, that spirit is now completely and totally aware of what's going on and how they're damned and confined into this Akuma, but they're unable to stop anything. So the person who has died, their spirit is now in this machine. The machine then immediately kills the person who just asked the Earl to bring their loved one back, and then wears their skin as a disguise.
Wow.
It's
pretty
gnarly.
intense.
It's nuts. It's super intense. That's just how he makes Akuma. Akuma can level up and eventually sort of garner their own kind of free will and become their own sort of entity. So the Millennium Earl very much cares about his Akuma, his demons. The Millennium Earl also has a group of individuals known as the Noah, which act as his disciples, more or less. He has usually 13 of them, but there's also a 14th that comes into this series later. Ugh. One of the reasons that I love these villains is because they are absolutely terrifying and powerful. I very rarely, usually when you're watching a show, when you're reading a story, whatever it is, when you're consuming a story in some way, you want your good guys to win. You want them to find the bad guys, beat the crap out of them. And I found myself more often than not in this series hoping that they would not run into the Noah. I never wanted them to find them because they're devastatingly powerful. They kill so many people in this. So many people die in this show. And they're legitimately terrifying. In fact, I think up to now, so it's kind of hard to keep up with what's going on in the series. The creator goes on hiatus quite often, and I don't know that she's actually finished it. As far as here in the US, we have several volumes, and we have the latest volume is out, but there are still a few more chapters, but there's not enough to make a full volume, so we don't have the latest volume in America. I'm sure I could find it in less legal ways, but up to this point, as far as I know, only one Noah has actually been effectively killed. And there's 12 of them. But they're just so breathtakingly powerful. And so on the good guy side, we've got exorcists. And Alan Walker is our main character, who through the course of the story we learn is also a Noah, or at the very least is sharing a body with a Noah. Noah usually are entities that take over existing human beings. And so it's crazy. Some of the backstory in it is really nuts and kind of brain mind screwing. It's just ridiculous, some of the things that happen and some of the things that exist. And so how who the Millennium Earl was and who Alan was before this current timeline and different things of that nature, and just it's interesting to me how much you like the Noah, because we get to see a lot of them and how they interact with each other, because they very much are a family, and designed to care about one another and care about each other's preservation. So all the Noah love one another, and they all want to create this new world without humans, because humans they perceive as being this sort of disease on the world. And so they all very much believe in what they're doing. They care very much about one another. They act very much as a family, and they really don't like any one of them being hurt, and they just want Alan to accept his life as a Noah and come and be with them. And it's a very interesting dynamic to the villains in this story, I think, and again, also terrifying. The exorcists have different generals who are like the most powerful exorcists, and even they have a rough time with some of the Noah. At the most people are usually able to do is fend off the Noah for a while and get out and escape. But yeah, this series takes a bunch of turns and interesting developments, and it's really, really freaking good. But the Noah and the Millennium Earl are terrifying and make for very, very good villains, I think, because of that. I just when a villain can really be menacing and make me be afraid for the lives of genuinely afraid for the lives of the main characters, I appreciate that, and I think it's a mark of a good villain. So they are my number 3, and they're really freaking cool.
Cool.
Very nice.
Is that just a manga, or is it also an anime?
It is an anime. So the first run of the anime, I'm not a huge fan of. The first season's fine. The second season is mostly filler. They revisited it, and they did D. Gray Man Hollow. I don't know, though, if it's like picking up where the first one left off, or if it's actually a redo. I haven't seen any of it at all.
No, it picks up from the first season.
Okay, that's what I thought it was. Yeah.
Because I actually started watching Hollow.
Cool. Yeah.
Assuming, that it was like a remake or something, and it wasn't. It was like there was something happening. I have no idea what's going on.
Yeah. So I imagine it works like sort of the Blue Exorcist when they restarted. They just sort of picked up more or less where the first season left off.
Okay. Cool.
So yeah, I wouldn't mind seeing it, but I have the manga, and the manga's good.
Cool. My number 3 is Magneto from the X-Men. He's Magneto. You guys know. All right, that's it.
He's another one that I think is very menacing.
My number. No, I'm just kidding.
He's a super if you know Marvel, you know X-Men, you know of Magneto. He is, I want to say, the main antagonist to the X-Men. He always keeps showing up and giving the X-Men a hard time. So a little backstory on him. He's Jewish. He was in the Holocaust, and he survived the Holocaust. And so he has a very bleak outlook about humanity type of a deal. Now in one of the iterations, this is taken from the comic, but here's a quote that he said. In this storyline, I don't exactly remember what happens in this X-Men storyline, but he's talking to Cyclops, and he's trying to get Cyclops to be on his side. Right. And he explains that humans just create war and hate, and then he considers humans just I guess lesser than mutants, than all mutants. And so this is what he says, they're a fundamentally flawed creation, and it's our duty to replace them at the earliest opportunity. As the more intelligent species, one might say it's our moral responsibility. And so...
Up on a high horse there, Magneto.
Right? and he's coming... He is coming from a... the reason why I like him is because we definitely understand his past and his history. He had a rough childhood.
Yes.
But then as he grew up, he had friends like Professor Xavier, and they became close friends.
Yeah.
But then there just came a turning point where their ideals of when more mutants start showing up, basically like their ideals of who they are and how they fit in society just totally differed. And so that's when they became kind of frenemies.
Yeah.
You know, they're still friends, but they're like, you're wrong. I like you, but you're wrong.
Yeah.
And even in the comics, Magneto ends up being the leader of the X-Men for a little bit. And so yeah, I just really like him because of his past and his belief and how like you just really understand his ideals and where he's coming from.
Yeah.
And you're like where you're never like, oh, he's completely wrong. You're like, he's wrong, but I get it, you know? And so and also he has a super powerful ability.
Yeah.
You know?
Definitely. Yeah. Freaking control over all metal.
And in the comics, I think he looks really good in the comics too. The red and blue just suit. Oh, he looks so good.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's my number 3.
What you got for us, Eddie?
Well, my number 3 is John Kramer, also known as Jigsaw from the Saw series.
Goodness gracious.
Okay.
Yeah, I know, right? I'm like a dark guy here. Oh my god.
Fun story. So, Saw helped me learn that I was squeamish. Never knew that till I saw a Saw movie.
Oh, well, there you go.
Yep.
Well,
10 minutes in, I was like, I don't think I could do this.
But John Kramer is the serial killer in the Saw series who doesn't kill people. He's never killed anyone.
Okay, sure.
But he puts people in life-threatening traps, which they rarely get out of. He was, at the beginning, a terminally ill cancer patient who survived a suicide attempt by driving his car off the road and plummeting down a hill. He pulled a metal rod from his chest and survived, which gave him his new outlook on life of those who don't appreciate life do not deserve life. He takes basically criminals, suicidal people, thieves, basically low lives, and puts them in horrible, mutilating traps. Most people have to shed blood or sacrifice flesh to win the games, as he calls it. He's eventually killed by one of his victims during a brain operation the guy's wife was performing. Unfortunately, Kramer's heart monitor was also connected to the victim's wife's shotgun collar, which she was wearing at the time.
What the heck?
Which went off upon his flatlining, of course. And his work continued through his proteges, which he had many of throughout the series.
How many movies are there?
There's like 8.
Yeah, I want to say 8.
Are they all Kramer? Oh, I mean, obviously they're not all Kramer. Which ones are Kramer?
He has filmed every scene that he's been in each movie. He has been in each movie, but some of them were flashbacks and stuff.
Okay.
Or vocal recordings of his. And basically he's another entity character. Like he's rarely ever present in the schemes that he has, and he records the things that he's saying, and he speaks through this weird little creepy clown doll that rolls out on tricycles on occasion. Yep. But there are some of them are pretty bad. Like some of the movies are awful, but some of them are also really good. Like the first Saw movie is one of the best movies I can think of, if only because of the twist at the end when he gets up off the floor. Like after everything is said and done, like that blew my mind so much.
Okay.
But he's a genius. Like these movies are genius. Like finding different ways to to test the human body, as he says. And yeah, I mean there are a couple of things that made me like kind of squeamish as well. Like, well, I'm not gonna give examples because that would make me squeamish. But
thanks.
Except this one time. But I think he's pretty cool in the sense of he doesn't kill people, but you know he does
But he does kill people.
But he does. But they kill themselves. He doesn't do it.
Oh yeah, sure.
Yeah, like you said, he's the entity that kind of puts them in the situation, and he's like, hey, just here's the thing. Like, you can basically get out of these situations with minimal casualty or minimal like harm to yourself, or it's gonna hurt a lot.
You die.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's so genius. Like some of those things, like I think the third movie had them where they had to like make it through each of the tasks like as a group, but each time someone died, and it made it horrible, more and more horrible for them. And
sweet,
a new way to think of group activities.
Yeah, right.
But yeah, I don't know. I guess I do like entity and villains now that I've been describing these. But they're good entities in my opinion.
Yeah, they work.
Sweet. But yeah, since we're pushing into an hour, for the podcast, we should push forward
to number 2. My number 2 is Wilson Fisk.
Oh
okay.
Man,
AKA
I was gonna put him on my list, but I didn't because I knew
Pin.
I knew that Ethan was going to.
He's great.
Yes.
But technically, he would be on one of my top 5 as well. He'd probably replace one of these people.
Yes. Gosh, I like this villain, and like it was a struggle to choose between him and my first one.
Mm-hmm. Which will come later.
Yeah, spoiler alert. My first one is not Kingpin. But so like Wilson Fisk he's more or less a gangster, a crime boss.
Yeah.
And I think he's a little more cartoonish in sort of the comics and different things of that nature. But like the one I'm specifically talking about is Wilson Fisk, aka Kingpin, from season 1 of Daredevil on Netflix. And the reason he's so great is he's so right. Like he's super correct in a lot of things and his ideals, and you can sympathize with him almost completely. Like he came from a really rough childhood with a really terrible dad who he ended up basically killing to protect his mom. He witnessed firsthand all of the travesties of the city that he's in and the terrible things that go about it, and he understands the true power of money and position and influence, and wants to use it to basically eradicate problems and crime, even though he understands that he himself is more or less a criminal and that he's working with other crime syndicates and things of that nature, which he does too. He does want to better the town. Like that is his purpose. And
Hell's Kitchen,
yes. And it's almost in a way of like exacting revenge on the city itself and sort of giving it a new birth. And so he's just very, very cutthroat and ruthless about the way he goes about things. He's also really strong and crazy, and likes to kill people with car doors. And
yeah,
he's nuts, and he's so cool, and it's just like he's so menacing. So he's got that going for him. He's definitely impressive and powerful. He can definitely hurt you. Daredevil has a hard freaking time fighting him because he fights him more than once. He has really good, like sort of political and social standing. Like he's like a very much almost like a Lex Luthor kind of character for a good portion of this. He just spends his time. He is very good at presenting a good front. And so, but because of that, he's harder to fight. He's harder to get. It's harder to get him. So it's like he's such a good villain for Daredevil. One of the things I love about Daredevil and that show is, for one, it's not a 13-hour origin story like some other Marvel Netflix series are. And from the get-go, Daredevil is, not only does he want to do good, he is doing good. From the get-go, he's dressing up in a mask and going out and beating the crap out of criminals. And then in his daily life, he's also a lawyer. Like, he believes very wholeheartedly in doing what's right, and he does it day and night, no matter what persona he's currently using. And that's really cool, because that makes Wilson Fisk such a great opponent for him, because he does have a lot of the public on his side, and it's very, very difficult to find anything about him at all, much less anything incriminating. Mm-hmm. So he can't fight him as a lawyer, and he has to make sure he spends time fighting him as actual Daredevil, and it just makes for such a good freaking show. Wilson Fisk is amazing, because he's so brilliant, and he's planned things out so freaking well, and he's so evil, and he's so good at it.
And I'll add on to that.
Yes.
His love interest in this show is very believable. Like, you can tell that Fisk loves this woman, and I forget her name, but whatever.
He's very human.
I mean, you can see that he loves her, and it's very difficult to see that sort of emotion in a villain.
Yes.
In any sort of show or movie.
I agree.
And it was really nice to see that from him.
Yes. I think that's another thing that draws me to the Noah, and that people like about the Noah and D. Gray Man, is that sense of actual love you can feel between them, which is just crazy. But yeah, Wilson, he just, you look at him and you're like, man, this could be an actual person. He feels so real, and that makes him so terrifying. He's so good. Of all the things I will recommend to you, anyone who's listening, on my personal list, watch Daredevil season 1. It's so good.
It is great.
Oh, anyway, that's my 2. We'll move on.
My number 2 is the Dwarf in the Flask, or Father, in Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood.
Okay, cool. I don't know anything about this character.
This guy, he, for more than half of the anime, he's kind of, as Eddie would say, an entity. Because throughout the show, we get hints that they're these monsters called homunculus, and they're they've kind of put themselves into the government, and basically controlling the government and doing things, for evil purposes. And so we get this thought that someone is controlling them, they're not in a group thing, someone is the leader of this homunculus, and we never find out who that is until later on in the anime. And so the father, how he started out, he started out kind of he looked like Gengar, like the Pokemon Gengar, but in a flask.
Okay.
And so, because he's this small little thing in a flask, that's why he was called Dwarf in the Flask.
Gotcha.
And that was I want to say hundreds of years ago in the anime. And basically what happens, he tricks the leaders who has him to basically create a Philosopher's Stone. And how you create a Philosopher's Stone is by basically sacrificing humans to create a Philosopher's Stone. Yep. And in doing that, they made him basically a body. He ended up becoming a Philosopher's Stone. As well as Hohenheim, who Hohenheim was kind of his friend. Well, he was the Dwarf in the Flask. And so now he has a body. Father has a body. And Hohenheim, he also has abilities now, because Hohenheim's also basically a Philosopher's Stone. And so throughout the story, we also find out that he feels that he is perfect and that that the gift of God is owed to him. Like he deserves to be God, basically. And so throughout the story, we end up finding out that he is the one that orchestrated like many wars that happened in the Great Ishval Wars and the many other wars that are happening in like the country. Gotcha. And he also created like the central government, and he created oh man, I can't remember his name. I can't believe I can't. Wrath, gotcha. who is the leader, who
the seven deadly sins, more or less.
Yeah. So he is the leader of the country. His title is also Father. What do the Nazis call?
Yeah, that word.
What? Say that again.
Führer.
Yeah, Führer. Yeah. So he's he created Wrath, which becomes the Führer, and who is like again like the leader of the country, and so he's like ordering him around to do stuff. But he's also taught the people of that land alchemy, and we learn later on in the show that he basically controls when the people can use alchemy.
Huh. And
so that's another instance of like when he feels like he's a god, he controls this. Yeah. And so at the end of the show, okay, so this is a quote from him of how he feels. This is literally him saying how he feels about like the human race. When you see an insect lying on the ground, do you stop to consider it a fool? The life of an insect is so beneath you that it would be a waste of your time to even consider judging it. That would be an accurate assumption of my feelings towards you humans. I'm like, oh man, that's bad.
Yeah, it's intense.
And then later on in the show, at the end of the show, he ends up becoming God. And so he does achieve his goal,
right?
But at the same time, Hohenheim, he had a feeling that the dwarf and the flask would be doing something like this, and so throughout the many years, he's been coming up with a plan to kind of counteract what he has done to become a god. And so he does, and it weakens him, and then there's a fight, and the main characters Ed and Al, they end up fighting him, and they defeat him.
Right.
So yeah, I really like him because again, I feel like he is all like how Eddie has said like a couple of his top is like he is an entity throughout the entire show until you actually finally meet him and you're like, holy crap. It like he's orchestrated everything to like the country and how the country is formed, because it's like formed in a circle, and that is perfect for an alchemist circle. Yeah, transmutation circle. So he is like everything about the country and everything about alchemy, like it's all because of him. And so it's pretty cool. I love it. It's my favorite anime. It's my favorite anime show. Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood.
That's super cool. Eddie?
Well, my number two. My next two aren't actually entities, so we have actual like villains this time.
Ooh.
My number two is Yoshikage Kira from JoJo's Bizarre Adventure.
Okay,
Part
cool.
4. He's Part 4's main villain. Kira is a paraphilic serial killer, which means he does it for sexual gratification.
Oh, fun.
He lures women in and kills them. He cuts off their hands and uses it for sexual purposes, treating it like a sentient girlfriend, having conversations with it, and bestowing gifts and stuff like that. He often says he wants a peaceful life, safe from any worry and such, and he wants to be a plant, and he just wished people would get out of his business, you know?
That's fair.
This man is nuts.
He is a stand user, and a stand is basically JoJo's Bizarre Adventures powerful, like magic kind of thing.
Gotcha.
It's an extension of their subconscious, I guess you could say.
Okay.
It's a part of them, and they basically have special powers
Their
that they
aura.
can. Yeah, exactly. That's actually a better way to put it. But it's personified, like it's something. It looks like something like a person or an animal or something like that.
Gotcha.
And they can do special things. They're all unique and stuff.
Got an astral form.
Yeah, and if they get damaged, then the owner gets damaged, and so forth and so on. His stand is called Killer Queen. And basically, can make anything a bomb. Like any contact causes it to explode in a very bad way, a very very damaging way. He's normally happy and cheery, but if his way of life is endangered or if he's humiliated or something like that, he becomes incredibly violent.
Sounds like a stand-up guy.
Yeah, he's pretty great. He's very OCD, as you are, like as a sociopath, a psychopath. He basically has a fit whenever he's trying to do laundry at one point during the story, because they're not perfectly aligned or something like that. But I like this guy because of how he's written. Like, he seems like he would be a serial killer if you didn't know he was a serial killer, just by how he acts. Like, he's very strange. Like, all the studies and stuff that had been done on like serial killers and stuff, they actually did really well portraying through this guy. But as the story goes, Josuke, who is the main protagonist of of Part 4, JoJo, basically tracks him down, and he starts like getting dirt on this guy, and nobody knows his name until they actually like search for it. And whenever his name is found, he's like, holy crap, I have to actually get out of here. Kira goes to another stand user and basically has someone killed, and then he transfers his face to this other person's, and like assumes their life and stuff, and basically takes this family like on a ride of craziness. Yeah. And basically, he leaves no evidence behind because of his stand. If he can create a bomb out of a person's body and basically make it evaporate from like exploding and stuff. He basically has his way throughout the series. He does his hand thing, and but eventually he gets caught and eventually killed by an ambulance running over his head.
Yeah.
Very specific death.
Wow.
But, and it was an accident at that point too, like, because ambulances don't run over people.
We do.
But it's just how he was written and like how he acted throughout the series. It's like it was perfect for like that serial killer kind of trope, with
that's really cool.
How he acted. And Part 4 is probably one of my favorites so far because it's a modern day sort of anime. Like it feels like slice of life with stands thrown in.
Yeah.
So, and Part 5 was just announced, so that's coming out in October, and I'm super excited for it.
Cool.
Nice.
So that's gonna be good.
That's a show I've always been wanting to get into because I hear nothing but great things about it. And there's like so many memes about JoJo.
I've always heard good things.
Is that a JoJo meme? Is that a JoJo reference? No, but yeah, it's definitely something you should take a look at. Cause I'm probably gonna review it one of these days. Probably when Part 5 comes out.
I support you.
Good. And you will listen, and you will watch at least the first season too for assistance with me.
Awesome sauce. All right, we're moving on to the winners, gentlemen. Number one. My number one will be familiar to you. My number one is Prince Lotor.
What?
From Voltron.
What a
is
surprise.
That who inspired this whole thing?
Probably. I think. And honestly, it could have gone either way with Wilson Fisk and Lotor, because I feel very similarly about both of them. I think I put Lotor in one just because he's at the forefront of my mind right now, and I've watched this recently, and I just love it. And because at the end of the day, I probably wouldn't have been super happy if Fisk had won, but if Lotor had won, I'd have been like, yeah, all right. It's cool. Give it to him. I love Prince Lotor. So, I know y'all, have either of you watched any of it?
Not yet.
Anymore?
I do intend to.
I'm going to do my best not to
It's sitting
spoil
on my
crap
desktop.
for you. But I love Lotor so much because of sort of like the hand he's dealt. I think he does the absolute best that anyone could possibly have done in his situation. And he just he's doing his best to bring to get his ultimate goal is to get an unlimited source or supply of quintessence. Quintessence is this sort of like ethereal power source in the universe. It's what's used to, it's basically like magic fuel. And it's what's used more or less to make all the magic that happens with Alteans. So Alteans is a certain race of people in space that look like elves with shiny stuff on their face. Shiny little gems and tattoos. They can do magic, and quintessence sort of flows through them and in and out of their being. And then there's also like there's this like pocket of quintessence, or there's a way to get to quintessence. It's like sort of like lines are different universes. And so if you travel through to a different universe, you're traveling through sort of like a veil of quintessence. So Lotor's idea and everything that's sort of Altean scientists and alchemists have studied for thousands of years, he sort of uses all of that information to try and find a way to get into this field of quintessence so that he can harness it. There are also certain like bits of metal, like in asteroids and things of that nature, that are sort of imbued with quintessence and their power. That's what Voltron was originally made from. He ends up making his own sort of Voltron-like suit out of a bit of asteroid that they find, or a comet or whatever it is. But like he essentially loses both of his parents to this quintessence and to this search for it, and to what ends up becoming the Galra Empire, even though he's heir to the Galra Empire. But he's a half-breed. He's half Galra and half Altean, so he's never really accepted by the Galra, and he's sort of cast out. But he uses his training and his understanding and his intellect and his charisma to gain a lot of people to his side. He has a very loyal group of individuals that are loyal to him. He takes over for the Galra. He takes over for his father. He takes over the Galra Empire for a little while, and then for a bit is cast out again. And you watch him and you learn about his past, and you learn just how badly he wants to just make things right, even in his own sort of twisted way. And then you see him legitimately fool dozens, really thousands of people, but particularly our main protagonists. And it's so cool to watch. And by the end of it all, just through everything that he's been through and been doing this whole time, you're like, yeah, if anyone deserves this, it's definitely you. Even if you're not in the right entirely, no one in this show has tried harder than you have to acquire this thing that you want. And by gosh, yeah, if they had just let him have this season, I'd have been like, yeah, we'll regroup, we'll come back, and we'll fight. But like, he's so cool. He's so charismatic, and he's right in a lot of ways. And he is often he's more or less after something that would be good, but he also kind of loses his mind a little bit. The quintessence is a very powerful force, but it can be very, very mind-altering and warping. Mm-hmm. It's not something you should expose yourself to very much, and he's lost both of his parents to that in a way. And so it's just his ego kind of ends up being his undoing. but it's very easy to see why he would want some of the things that he wants.
He's
And
very
I
pretty.
love that. I'm sorry?
I said he's very pretty.
He is very pretty. He's a gorgeous man. Yeah. Oh. Gosh, he's cool. Yes. Anyway, Lotor is my number one, definitely.
Cool.
Sir.
That's cool. Mine, I ultimately chose this guy from nostalgia purposes.
It's okay. No one else has done that ever.
Where, yeah, I've just always had a soft spot for him ever since I saw him in the 90s. So this guy is Makoto Shishio from Rurouni Kenshin.
Ha! I don't remember exactly which one this is.
He is his history is during I don't remember what war, but there was a war in Japan that was happening, and the main protagonist of the story, Kenshin Himura, he was an assassin. He was known as Batosai the Manslayer. And then throughout, like, basically his campaign being that assassin, he's like, can't back off. He's like, I'm gonna be done. I'm done with bloodshed. I'm gonna not kill anymore and do this kind of stuff. And so Kenshin backed off. And so Makoto, he was the one that basically picked up his slack. He's the one that ended up becoming the next manslayer. Like he was the next like main assassin that people would hire to, assassinate people. But then at the end of the war, the new Meijing government, I believe that's the era that was
Meiji era.
They doused they caught him and doused him in oil and burnt him alive.
Right.
But he didn't die.
Yep.
And so now his main look is he's just covered in bandages.
He's like a mummy.
Yeah, and
I saw
he looks
someone
like a mummy.
cosplaying him and it was so great.
That's cool.
Ah.
And so here is his philosophy. Here's a quote from him. In this world, the weak are the substance for the strong. The strong live, the weak die. And so that's basically that is how that's his motto. He says that a lot.
Sounds
in
like
the
a
show.
Dragon Ball Z villain.
Right. But I really like him because for one, he's inspired other pretty cool villains to follow him, who I also really like. But yeah, so and his followers like really believe him too, and they also believe in that that mentality. And so what his goal is basically to overthrow the government and take control of Japan because he wants Japan to be strong. He wants to be he wants Japan to be the strong ones and not be weak. And so the government finds out that Makoto wants to overthrow the government, and so they hire Kenshin to stop him because he's the only one that's like strong enough to fight him.
Right.
And so, the awesome fight happens. So basically, Makoto, his whole thing is he's like completely burned from head to toe, and he can't control his temperature, basically. And so when he gets like he can only fight for like 15 minutes to be safe, but other like when it's like starts passing 15 minutes of him like fighting or doing anything extraneous, he starts heating up and things start getting really bad for him. I think at like 20 minutes, his blood starts evaporating because he just gets so hot. And then at 25 minutes, the oils of his skin just burst into flames, just basically catch on fire. And so Kenshin ends up running into Makoto and end up fighting him. And throughout the fight, it's very emotional. Kenshin ends up getting knocked down, but then he gets back up because of his fighting spirit.
Yes, indeed.
And he ends up fighting Makoto. And it's a really awesome fight. And Kenshin wins and Makoto loses. Mm-hmm. The only reason why Makoto loses is because he catches on fire. Like, he just bursts into flames because he's been going on for too long. He's been fighting him for way too long. But he ends up getting up to 30 minutes, and so he passed his limit. That's a big thing in that fight is Makoto passing his limit and Kenshin passing his limit, and cool stuff happens. But yeah, and so that's the only reason why I believe that is literally the only reason why he lost, is because he burst into flames. And I strongly believe that if he didn't, Kenshin actually would have lost, and Makoto would have overthrown the government and won. And I really like him. I really liked him when I was younger, and he just always stuck with me. Just like how he looks and how he fights. He fights with a sword with his sword has a very light serrated edge, and so digs into your body, and it's also coated in human blood or human oils.
Sweet.
Because and so it can so he can have his sword burst into flames, and so it'll be like a blade flame sword thing. And yeah, he looks awesome. His followers and his methodology is just very simple to the point, and he doesn't want to. And like I said, he doesn't want to rule the world. He wants to just make Japan great and make it strong. And so that's right. And yeah, and so that's why I like him, because he seems he seems very human to me. It's very he was given kind of the wrong end of the stick, where the government betrayed him.
Yeah, definitely.
And he was like, all right, you guys, I survived that, meaning I'm strong. Japan's weak now, I'm gonna make it strong again.
That's good.
So yeah, that is my number one, Makoto Shishiro.
Well done. Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Eddie, bring us home.
Alrighty. My number one is partially because of nostalgia as well, funnily enough.
Nice.
But she's still pretty crazy. Agatha Trunchbull from Matilda.
Okay.
What?
Nice.
Trunchbull is the child-hating principal of Matilda's story. She is described in the book as a gigantic holy terror, a fierce, tyrannical monster who frightened the life out of pupils and teachers alike.
That's great.
It's more so the movie version of her, played by Pam Ferris, who is also Harry's aunt who comes to visit in the third movie, who gets inflated.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah.
That's funny.
She always plays this really rude, crazy lady.
Yeah.
But
that's sweet.
In the movie, she's pretty terrifying. I can remember very vividly being frightened of her. Because at one point in the movie, she grabs one of the students by the pigtails, spins her around, and throws her, and almost impales her on the iron fence outside the school.
Yeah.
And would have had Matilda not used her telekinetic powers to cause her to glide over it. She occasionally locks children in the choki, which is a tall, narrow cupboard that's so small you can't sit or squat. Portions of it are lined with nails and broken glass, and they have to stand beneath a leaky pipe that's going through it. So she's pretty bad.
Cozy.
Through the story, it's revealed that Miss Honey, Matilda's sweet, caring primary teacher, she's very motherly, the good teacher, is the niece of Miss Trunchbull. We learn that Miss Trunchbull kills Miss Honey's father to possess his house and fortune, because she was the inheritor, I guess, because legal matters.
Beneficiary.
Yeah, beneficiaries. Since Matilda has kinetic powers, basically near the end of the movie, she levitates a piece of chalk, and writes a message from Miss Honey's father. Miss Trunchbull is very superstitious, and we learn this through a black cat coming toward her during one of the scenes of the movie, and like she freaks out. She tries to make it go and stuff. She doesn't want to touch it. Like she freaks out, and it's great. But the message is like, I'll get you like you got me if you don't leave Miss Honey's house, and so forth and so on. And she again freaks out and goes crazy and tries to run out of the school, and she's thrown under a barrage of like food, books, and everything else by the children and the teachers, and never to darken the doorways of the school again.
Excellent.
But she's just a big monster. Like, and the book, of course, was written by Roald Dahl. And his stories always had like this crazy undertone. You know, Charlie and the Chocolate Factory,
right?
James and the Giant Peach, etc. But he wrote this one as well. So it's a pretty crazy story. You know, a little girl has telekinetic powers because she reads so much because her parents are horrible. And she ends up getting adopted by Miss Honey eventually because her crooked father, who was a car salesman, sold too many illegal things. But yeah, I think she's a great villain because she's just a capital B, and she's very scary.
Yeah. Good night. Well, thank you, sir. That's it. That's our top 5.
Oh man,
15 of the best villains ever, brought to you by us, those nerds you know.
And if you disagree, we don't care.
Absolutely,
because this is our opinion.
You can definitely give us your top 5 if you feel like it. Let's each do one thing for what you should be nerding out to, real quick, like.
Okay.
This past week, there's a theater here that did a midnight showing of Scott Pilgrim versus the World.
Oh, sick!
Oh,
That's
wow.
cool.
And I was so happy to see that film again in theaters. It was so good. I love that movie.
It's a really good movie to see in theaters.
Yes, I love that movie so freaking much, and it was great to see. And like, so it's a cool little theater, not far from here at all. Like, it's like down the street from my house. And there's just like a cool little niche theater, just like one big screen and one big room, and they come on and do a little message beforehand, and they were showing really old trailers or older movies, including one of the Jason movies that they're going to be playing this week. The guy came on beforehand and he was like, we were real close to getting Edgar Wright here, and I was like, oh my gosh,
that would have been amazing.
I would have lost my crap. So cool. But anyway, yeah, that was my cool thing I did. If you haven't seen that movie, definitely go see it. If you're listening to us, it's right up your alley, I promise.
Gideon, I mean, all those were pretty good villains too, like the exploit ones.
Yes.
Yeah.
They were really good.
Mm-hmm.
And each of them were unique and stuff. So,
what you got for us? What are you
nerding out to? I'm gonna say, everyone should nerd out to a video game called Warframe.
Oh yeah, they just released an update, or they're going to release an update.
Yeah. The developers, they just had their it's called TennoCon. Their like little conference thing that they do yearly, little press conference stuff. And so the new stuff that they're bringing, it's really exciting. They are a video game company that I feel is just doing a lot of things right, where a lot of consumer friendly things, gotcha. Right? And in kind of in a day and age where most big developers are kind of doing a lot of crappy things for consumers.
I feel you.
Because Warframe, it's a free to play game. It's on like everything basically. Yeah. It's on PC, Xbox, PlayStation, and it just got announced it's coming to Switch.
Sweet.
And yeah, it's great. Like I said, it's a free to play game, and just it's amazing how far they've come and were able to make it what it is today.
Yeah.
Being a free to play game, because they really are a great company. Cool. The company is called Digital. Oh, it's DE. They call themselves DE. Digital Extreme. That's it.
There you go.
Yeah, it's great. So check out that game if you guys are into MMO type games, but not like deep MMOs like World of Warcraft or Guild Wars or something like that. It's more of an MMO action, third-person action game type of thing. It's great. It's a lot of fun. So that's what my recommendation.
Cool beans. Thank you, sir. Eddie, what you got?
I just finished Luke Cage season 2.
I figured you would.
How is it?
It's really good.
Yeah, compared to the first season? How is it compared to the first season?
It's better than the first season.
Good.
Oh, good.
I'm so glad to hear that.
Yeah. I think it focused a lot more personal on Luke and like even Mariah. Mariah was really involved in this season.
Okay. Cool.
Even though I don't really like Mariah.
Yeah.
But the actress did great with her. Like everything is like she's awkward, and it's very apparent, especially during the romance scenes, which happen throughout the entire series. But it's so awkward, and I'm pretty sure it was written to make it to be like that because Shades is just I hate that guy.
I love Shades so much.
I just don't like Mariah or Shades, but I really enjoyed it. I liked the more personal touch of it. And do you know what happens later on, like the person that comes in?
No, I don't. I've only seen the first 2 episodes.
All right,
that's cool.
Well, there's another tie-in that comes in. So
sweet. I will continue watching.
Yeah, it's really good too. It's hilarious. No, it's not. But I also saw Ant-Man 2.
Yes.
And you guys didn't. Ha!
I'm definitely going to have to make that happen this week.
It's really good.
Yeah, I know. I'm sure it is.
I enjoyed it a bit more than the first one, to be honest.
Cool. All right.
Even though I watched both of them in the course of like 20 hours. But they're both good. I really like the first one. Ants are amazing, and I want one as a pet if they were like larger as they were in the movies. They're adorable.
That's sweet.
But yeah, it was really good. Definitely go see it. We will probably do a review next week on it.
Yeah, I feel like we'll do that next week. Cool.
If you don't, I will. So
awesome sauce. Well, thank you so much. Thank you, listeners. You make this possible. You're amazing. Thank you so much for listening to us. Please like, comment, subscribe. Give us a nice review on iTunes if you will. That helps us out a whole lot. But you can contact us. Let us know what you thought about our list and let us know what your favorite villains are. Tweet at us on Twitter at TNYKPod or find us on Facebook. Those Nerds You Know. We're also on YouTube. You can get the pod on iTunes, on Google Podcasts, on Stitcher, CastBox, and Podbean, and a lot of other places. Just look for us. You'll find us. No worries. Thank you so much for everything you do for us. And, if you can drop us an email as well if you like. If you want to tell us something that you liked about our villains, or if you want to request us to review something that you like or want us to see, you can hit us up on Gmail. It is thosenerdsyouknowpod @gmail.com. Go ahead and talk to us, please. We'd love to hear from you all. But yeah, that's about it for the show this week. My name is Ethan.
I'm Eddie.
And I'm Nick.
And we are Those Nerds You Know. Bye.